Lee Enterprises. During the debate, you said you mentioned that you had been taken aback, or you were kind of caught off guard. What caught you off guard about this debate?
Well, you know, be prepared to ask a question in that. I knew that was a kind of a heads-up deal, but I was listening to the allegations that were made that just came streaming like they were lifted right off the left-wing websites. And I really thought there would be a little bit of kind and gentle going on. So that's what really took me a little bit off balance.
Congressman Mike Malloy from the Ames Tribune. You had mentioned to me earlier that the reason you hadn't done debates since your first run for Congress was because of the opponents just wanted to attack you personally. Within the first few minutes, she called you a bully and an embarrassment to Iowa. So was that part of what took you back there, what you were just mentioning?
Well, I didn't get around to rebutting that and didn't see the need to do so, but you know, the kind and gentle nature looks like that's going to have to find a way to emerge here if it's going to happen at all. There's not probably a name that she has called me that you can't find on the left-wing websites. I think that's where the debate preparation came from, is the left-wing websites.
Mark Telshek from KCCI. Did the way tonight's debate go have any effect on whether you will agree to do all the rest of the debates that are scheduled?
Let's do more. Let's do Lincoln Douglas. Let's sit down with 2 chairs on a stage. We don't have to have a referee, and we can just talk for 90 minutes, and then we can get into some real depth here. That's what's important, is find out what's underneath all these talking points and find out if there's a rationale behind them. I'd like to hear how you can defend Obamacare, how you can say it's a good foundation to start with and that you just need to change a few things to make that go. I'd like to know how the individual mandate could be severed from Obamacare and you could still have Obamacare. I listened to those arguments before the Supreme Court in depth, and the left and the right of the Supreme Court understood what kind of a mess that would be created if they did that, and of course they didn't sever the two. So there are many pieces of this along the way. How do you balance a budget by saying that you're going to look for some programs to cut? It's a lot harder than that. I think that exposes a lack of knowledge about how deep this problem is with our national budget. Let's get into it a little deeper. Let's talk about some broader things too. Let's talk about the rule of law. Let's see what the immigration policy is. Let's see what about the foundation might be for a real belief in free enterprise. And for me, I've lived in the middle of it, and I'd like to get into that far more deeply, and I think Lincoln Douglas would be the way to go.
In so many words, it sounded like you were saying she was parroting some left-wing propaganda, or if you should get off a website. Is that a subtle attack at her lack of experience in your eyes? Is that what you're saying?
I think that's just her preparation, but it might also be her life. I don't know that. You know, to be, I run into those elements in some of the political life that I'm in. Not out in small town in rural Iowa. People don't act or talk or think like that. And I think that exposed a non-Iowa viewpoint, but it clearly is lifted off those websites. Now, whether she's reading them and believing them or whether she's being prepared to speak off of talking points from them, it's one of the two or both.
Congressman, you had mentioned some of the things you would like to replace the Affordable Care Act with, such as selling insurance across state lines. I don't think that Republicans had tried to pursue those things, though, when they controlled the House, the Senate, and the White House from 2001 to 2006.
Well, we did on selling insurance across state lines, and Congressman John Shadegg of Arizona was the lead on that.
Okay.
And we pushed to get that through, but didn't succeed in getting it passed. And when he retired, he came to me and he said the thing that he regrets the most about his 18 years in Congress was not turning up everything to get that bill passed. It would have made a lot of difference, and it may have preempted the effort to pass Obamacare. It might have been enough change that their argument could not have stuck on Obamacare. So, but that's something I've long been for since the time I arrived in Congress. The list of these things, it's a partial list, it's not a whole list, but these are things I've spoken about publicly for a long time. Congressional record is full of it. And it's a little surprising to me that wouldn't be something that the opposition research would discover, given all the things that they have dug through over the last year and a half.
So what do you think the voters in the new 4 will think about tonight's debate? What do they take away from it in your mind?
Well, I think that they should listen to the solutions on both sides. Consistently, Christie Vilsack kept trying to make a point that a single member of Congress is 100% responsible for a piece of legislation not getting passed. And we all know that it's a lot harder than that. And when I introduced the first piece of legislation as it went into Congress that created the blender's credit for biodiesel and extended it for ethanol, and that became law. and it became the foundation for the renewable fuels energy industry here. You can't discount that. Now, I said I'm not taking the credit for building it or risking the capital. That was others that did that. But that legislation, I introduced it, and it became law, and it became the foundation for our economic foundation. So I think people understand that. I think they'll be looking at the endorsements that have been coming out from the ag community, for example, and the Friend of Agriculture designation that came about 2 weeks ago. It's the full support to me from Farm Bureau. Corn growers have done the same thing endorsed me fully. That's the Iowa corn growers, and it's the Iowa Farm Bureau. The rest of them are not finished with the things that they will do, but we've had good relationships with all of the ag community across the state and the renewable energy, and that includes livestock and renewable energy and working, and it's a very tough balance that we have. So I think that as they watch this all unfold, they're going to understand that I've been engaged in this in a lot of different ways, that it isn't just one plate spinning. You get a lot of plates spinning, and you got to keep them spinning, and I'm always looking for more ways to do more. And that's been the history of me in Congress. And by the way, the argument there's only one way to measure the effectiveness of a member of Congress, if they got a bill passed with their name on it. Jeff Flake has done the analysis of the most effective legislators in the amendment process, which is more effective and it's more immediate, and the procedures don't get in the way as much, although they do get in the way. And his chart shows that Jeff Flake and one other person have introduced and passed more amendments than I have. Otherwise, I am third in the number of amendments passed in the time I've been in Congress, and I'm number one in the highest percentage of effectiveness among those three. So that's another measure of effectiveness that's there, and there are many others, but you don't just measure it by did you get your name on a bill and take credit for it.
Okay, thanks, guys.
Thank you.